All right, mathletes, here are our notes on the quadratic formula. So a quadratic formula is another way to solve a quadratic equation. Oftentimes when we're dealing with difficult numbers, such that they can't factor, or completing the square is just not a efficient method of doing it, kind of our last option of solving is using our quadratic formula. Okay, so quadratic formula is generalized from completing the square, and that formula becomes this. Okay, so we have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Notice this can give rise to two solutions because we have a plus and a minus there. Okay, and the a, b, and c that these are speaking of are our a here, our b here, and our c here in our quadratic formula. Remember, just like our other quadratics, we want to solve and set equal to 0 first before we select our variables a, b, and c. Okay, so in this example here, remember, if it's not written, we have a 1x squared there. So our a is equal to 1. Our b is equal to, again, carry the sign, so it's negative 2. And our c is also equal to negative 2. So now that I have identified my a, b, and c, I'm going to substitute it into my equation. So I have x is equal to negative. And I always use parentheses to make with my negatives to make sure I preserve that negative. So I have negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 2, all over 2a, which is 1. So now I'm going to simplify it. So negative of a negative 2 is just 2, and I have plus or minus square root. So negative 2 squared is 4. And then I multiply all these together. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. Okay, and then I divide this by 2 times 1 is 2. Well, as I simplify this some more, okay, I can do 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 8 is 12 over 2. Okay, I could put this into my calculator and get some decimal expansion, okay, or I can also simplify this radical a little bit more and get a nicer fraction, because square root of 12, I know it has a perfect square of 4 in it, so I can write this as square root of 4 times the square root of 3 over 2. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 3 divided by 2. And because my numerator has a common factor of 2 out of it, I can factor that out. Okay. So this is 2 times 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2, and that's convenient, so they cancel out. So my final answer for x here is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, so there's one example of using the quadratic formula. Let's just look at one more. Okay, so here, again, identify my a is equal to 2, my b is equal to 3, and my c is equal to negative 4. And I'm just going to double check, right? It's all set equal to 0, so these are appropriate. Okay, so have my formula there. X is equal to negative b, so negative 3, plus or minus square root of 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 4, square root there, all over 2 times a, which is 2. So simplifying, so negative 3 plus or minus square root of 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative 4 again is going to be plus 32 over 4. Okay, so negative 3 plus or minus the square root. 9 plus 32 is 41. Okay, divided by 4. 41 doesn't simplify anymore, so I can leave it as that. If I want to put it in my calculator, I can do negative 3 plus the square root of 41 and divide it by 4. And I get one answer of, and this is approximation, because of the surd, it's going to be an irrational number, but I get approximately 0.851. Okay, that's if this was a positive here. Okay, if I plug it into my calculator as a negative, I get negative 3 minus the square root of 41. I get negative 9.4, and when I divide that by 4, I get my second answer, and again, it's approximation here. I get approximately equally to negative 2.351. Okay, so that's our notes on using our quadratic equation to solve a quadratic. Highlight any questions you might have and bring them to class.